Baby, let's VFX and Chill. Our weekly talk show where Seth and Hashi bring visual effects from movies and shows. Then try to put them back together again. Baby, show.
Welcome back to another episode of VFX and Chill. We are sorry for starting 15 minutes late. We're sorry. We're sorry.
We're
Seth.
very happy to have you here.
We are happy to
just
have you
cut
here.
you off.
No, I'm still happy to be here, even though I'm angry as hell at you for cutting me off. Michael, how are you?
I'm great. I watched a very cool indie movie last night called Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, so I'm pumped.
That's a very, very little movie. Very cool, little, tiny movie. It seemed like it wasn't a lot of effort put into it whatsoever. And
Wait a second.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's stunning. Everything about it is great.
Yes, the Spider-Verse, as envisioned by Into and Across the Spider-Verse, is just one of the coolest visual treats that any animated moviegoer could experience. If you are here on the Action Movie Kid channel and seeing me, Action Movie Dad, talk about this stuff, I want to let you know that this is a show where we're going to be discussing Into the Spider-Verse and visual effects and things like that. We usually host this show over on the Red Giant YouTube channel. So that is where a lot of other people, where you can find a lot of other people in the chat. So I do highly recommend, if you want to be part of the big chat that gets recorded and stays here on the internet with everybody, head on over to the Red Giant YouTube channel, and you should be able to see this stream right there. But
so Spider-Verse was awesome, and I know you haven't seen it yet, Hosh, but you can just assume it was. You've seen the first one, of course. It made me think. We did an animation episode, season 1, maybe.
Oh, we sure did.
2?
I think it was the season finale of the year 2001.
It was the whole year's finale for the whole world, and
It's incredible.
it was very
Cliffhanger.
ostentatious of us to title a season finale part 1 and then never deliver the part 2 across any of the future seasons. So I'm wondering if we should do that today, do a part 2 on animation, considering Spider-Verse was pretty crazy and huge.
That's a cool idea, because Spider-Verse has a lot of animation in it. It uses every crazy technique in the book. And
quite a number of techniques that are worthy of their own book. In fact, I bought the art of the first Spider-Verse book.
Yeah, but I mean, the Spider-Verse movies look so unique and cool, and I mean, Seth, I do love our show, but I also feel like.
No, I hear you.
If we're gonna cover animation, I feel like, especially let alone Spider-Verse, the Academy Award-winning series Spider-Verse, that we need something with a little more, I don't know, of that.
In some other universe, the show is going on, and it probably looks a lot cooler and more prepared.
Let's do this one last time.
That's better.
Welcome to VFX and Chill, the wildly animated and visually exciting show.
Welcome to the universe where we're rad dudes.
I love this multiverse thing. This is crazy. Oh my goodness, Seth. That
Hashi.
was quite a treat. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I did not know that there was a whole other universe where we were aware of our previous conversation and
we put in more work for the show.
Put in more work.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, that is, if you ever have too big of a task to finish in one universe, I mean, the multiverse is right there. Right, I think that's
for
it's
you
a
to
good
mooch
place
off of your other selves' hard work. And here we are on VFX and Chill. Michael, are you the current universe Michael or the other one? Are you the rad dude Michael or the just normal dude?
Are you
Michael?
the fish out of water now, Michael?
I'm a fish out of water now. I'm not very rad.
He gets up and there's fins, swims away. Actual fish. And I can't breathe.
Oh, could be so. I mean, just so many universe options.
Hey, Seth, have you spoken to any Academy Award-winning animation directors lately?
We did this so last minute. We did not plan a segue, and I couldn't help but laugh at your very brilliantly improvised one that I ruined immediately. Have I spoken to any Academy Award-winning directors lately? Let me tell you something. I have. And Hashi, so have you.
But also, just to clarify, like a great, animation director who is multidisciplinary and has worked in live action film throughout all of our childhood favorites and into today and still continues to do the same. Like that kind of Academy Award winning.
Yeah, I think I have talked to one of those. And he's tuning in right now. He's probably having huge regrets for coming on this show. Look, let's waste no more time. We have a pre-recorded interview we're very excited to share with you. By pre-recorded, we mean we recorded it literally 30 minutes ago and finished
we're like time
15 minutes
traveling.
ago. Yeah.
To 30 minutes ago. We're going to catch up with now. The multiverse is intense, everybody.
So Hashi, you wanna set up who we're talking to?
Absolutely. We are talking to none other than the amazing Peter Ramsey, who is a storyboard artist, director, incredible artist, visionary shot composer, and he has won an Academy Award for co-directing Into the Spider-Verse.
There it is.
And directed a TV series with Shannon Tyndall called Lost Ollie. He did an episode of The Mandalorian. So many wonderful things. We discussed some of them in this interview coming up here.
Yeah, so why don't we go and do it? Mike, you got any last words before we go talk to Peter?
Oh, well, definitely. In the meantime, anyone in the chat, please, if any of these interview questions kick off thoughts for you or questions for you on the show, throw them in the chat. We'll be watching the chat and catching up with them on the other side, everybody.
Absolutely. Let's go to our interview with Peter Ramsey.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
We are here with Peter Ramsey, Academy Award-winning director of Into the Spider-Verse. And Peter has been around in Hollywood for a very, very long time and is probably responsible for all of your favorite visuals from Tank Girl to...
started with Tank Girl, which I really love.
Starting with Tank Girl. This is going to be exclusively Tank Girl questions. No, but Peter has worked with, my goodness, every major filmmaker, right?
I mean, David Fincher is first one that comes to mind, of course. Legendary storyboard artist, and I'm actually not as familiar with when the transition was for you, what the transition was for you into full-time director. I don't know if that's that's too broad of a question to start with, but I am curious. How did you become the Peter Ramsey that you are today?
It was a very slow, painful process of a lot of stumbling around and wandering in the dark, basically. It's really funny. I actually did take the very long way around. When I decided, or let me put it this way: when I realized that a normal person, quote unquote, could get into movies and actually make a living working in the industry, it was kind of late. It wasn't until I was almost in my 20s that I understood that you could actually do that. So I didn't have family in the business, and I didn't have any connections or even an awareness of what it was to work in the industry, even though I'd grown up in LA. This was pre-internet and kind of pre the obsession with knowing a lot about the ins and outs of media and the media business. So that's how old I am. So I was really getting into film. I thought I was going to be a comic book artist, maybe some kind of illustrator. I had drawn all my life, but even then, my influences in the art I was doing came more and more from film. And I eventually got to the point, learning a little bit more about films and filmmaking, that I realized that's really what I wanted to do. And of course, I aimed right at the top from the very beginning. I wanted to be a director, but no money, no connections, et cetera, et cetera. I was looking around for a way to get some kind of toehold in the business, and there it was, storyboarding. I had the drawing skill, and I was kind of self-teaching enough about the process of movie making that I could kind of fake my way through, roughing out a scene or sitting in front of a director and not come off like a total idiot. So I signed on with an agency that repped storyboard artists for commercials, and they were moving into repping people for film. And so that's really kind of how it started. It was a year of doing all kinds of commercials, which led me to getting my first little indie movie job, and that led to other jobs, and I looked into the union and started working on bigger movies. And so my master plan to become a director was kind of underway. And I got a few second units. I was working with great filmmakers, a lot of my heroes. Got to work with Francis Ford Coppola on Dracula. As you said, David Fincher, I did a few movies with him. I did 2 with Spike Jonze. I did John Singleton's first 4 films.
Wow.
Worked on the Hulk.
What a list. Golly, what a list. You start off with Coppola's Dracula and then proceed all the way through. That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is kind of crazy when I think back on it. But that was my film school. And that was learning a bit about technique and what it actually is to to craft the film as something that's how can I put it? Not so pretentious as to say work of art, but the considered.
You can say work of art. I've seen your boards.
Well,
yeah, you can say work of art.
but a considered process. Really thinking about the script, the story, the structure, all of that. As to how I actually did finally manage to become a director, I had directed a few second units, as I said, and funnily enough, the first movie you brought up, Tank Girl, was kind of a turning point because I met a guy named Aaron Warner, and who Dan knows, I'm sure. And Aaron was the producer on Tank Girl. A few years after Tank Girl, I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, how's it going? I'm starting up on this weird thing called Shrek, and I wonder if you might be interested in coming out to DreamWorks Animation and checking the process out. I think you might find it interesting." And at the time, I think I literally was storyboarding Fight Club, and I was kind of like, "Well, sounds nice, but I'm working on a real movie, so maybe I'll talk to you guys later." And I sort of went on my merry way. A few years later, CG animation had sort of solidified itself into this huge sector of the industry, and some really great stuff was being done. Guys, Brad Bird was into it. DreamWorks was going strong. Pixar was just exploding. And Aaron called me back around the time they were prepping Shrek 3 and said, "Hey, I still think this would be a great place for you to really flex your muscles. You've got a skill set that could really work here, and I'm sure they would consider you to direct something." And I said, "Well, yeah, okay, I'll come and check it out." I was interested enough in the possibilities in animation by then, and I went and I kind of fell in love with what I saw at DreamWorks. It really had a collegial kind of campus sort of feel. The people were cool, and there was a real focus on art and the process of art as part of movie making, which you don't really get for the most part in live action filmmaking, or it's not emphasized to the same degree. So that really blew me away. And so I, thinking I was just going to be maybe a year to learn a little bit about animation, I signed on, and it ended up being closer to 11 years. And within 5 of those years, I was directing my first feature there, Rise of the Guardians. And that
amazing.
It
was really phenomenal to see you come in on Rise of the Guardians. I feel like animation, as you're basically saying, what's really neat about it compared to live action is that you're generating everything from scratch. And so a storyboard artists really contribute to everything that appears in them. And so you're building them from the ground up. And I feel like that, I love seeing you going from things like Rise of the Guardians through directing other series and episodes of Star Wars, The Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And the like. So
that was pretty wild.
Very incredible. So I remember the first screening of Rise of the Guardians it was so exhilarating for a project that the previous version I had seen of it was very slow, and suddenly it was this like nonstop adventure. It was a real treat to see the way it came together. To jump bizarrely ahead, when you're working on Into the Spider-Verse, did you dive in there and get to board any specific parts of that yourself, or were you tied up in directing duties?
Yeah, I actually got to board quite a bit of Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, the really funny thing is how I ended up directing there, because the first time it kind of appeared on my radar, I was directing something else for Avi Arad, who was one of the producers of Spider-Verse as well as of the live-action Spider-Man movies, and he had this other thing. This was after Rise came out, and it weird actually kind of flopped in theaters, and became kind of a cult classic after that. But kind of flopped in theaters, and I was like, wow, licking my wounds and trying to figure out what I was going to do after that. And Avi, excuse me, Avi offered me this. It was one of those Chinese co-production things where, of which there were many back then, and it was a big sort of Guardians-esque epic about this group of heroes from Chinese history, blah 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 blah. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll let's do that. I'll try that. It'll be a job, that'll be awesome. And within 2 weeks of signing on to that, I started hearing people around the office talking about Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. It wasn't called Spider-Verse yet. And I said, oh, Avi, what's going on? Are you doing another Spider-Man? What's happening? And he said, oh, yeah, we're doing animated Spider-Man over at Sony. And I said, oh, okay. That's cool. There's been plenty of Spider-Man lately, but that's, I guess we can always use a little more. That's good.
I love that was everyone's reaction to Spider-Verse, like when they heard it on paper.
Yeah, and then he goes, yeah, Phil Lord and Chris Miller are going to produce it. And I went, oh, really? And he said, yeah, your name was on the list to direct, but I told him you already got a job.
No! You're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, man, I was, and this was before I knew it was anything to do with Miles Morales, or I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that Phil and Chris were going to be involved, and that was that really that possibility really kind of blew me away. Yeah. So 6 months later, I found out my good friend Bob Persichetti, who I'd known from DreamWorks and who Dan, had gotten the gig to direct it, and I was like, wow, Bob plus Phil and Chris, because that guy is brilliant, and so much of the Spider-Verse movies comes from his his mind and his sensibility. I was just like, wow, it's really going to be amazing. I can't wait to see it. And as fate would have it, within probably another half year of that happening, the movie I was on exploded. One of the big Chinese companies pulled out, and the whole thing fell apart and collapsed. And really, in short order after that, I got a call from Bob, and he said, "Hey, I heard you got some time on your hands. Why don't you come over and board some sequences for Spidey?" And I was like, "Great, yeah, I'd love to." So I went, and I originally joined Spider-Verse as a board artist, and I was boarding because Bob and I had worked before a lot at DreamWorks, and he trusted me, and it was I came on and I saw what a massive project it was, and also what a cool project it was, because now I was seeing some of the early the very early concept art that Alberto Mielgo had done for the movie, and it was stunning. It was absolutely, I had never seen anything like it before. And it was in the very early days, and a lot of the ideas about, using comics as the source for the look of the movie were kind of in their infant form. So a lot of that stuff, Alberto had kind of hinted at some of that, but it wasn't, the look wasn't what it would become. Mm-hmm. But it was really cool, and you could see the potential. And I was boarding away on a version of the movie that was pretty different from what it is now, mostly because the character of Ganke, who was really prominent in the Miles comics, played a huge part in the movie. So it was a little more of a buddy movie as Miles was discovering his powers. In the I think you can still see that that version on one of the DVDs has deleted stuff that never got made.
Yeah, I remember a specific deleted scene being on there that had the two of them much more involved. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, it was great. And then so I was boarding there for close to a year, and by the end of the year it was becoming clear that with the schedule they had, they were going to need more than one director. So they asked me to come on alongside Bob, and there I was. And as things went on, there eventually wound up being three of us. And what we would kind of do was, there were some things we all did together. We were all in editorial together. We all directed the voice talent. We all met with, art and kind of like with them, kind of started hashing out the look of the movie. And but we would also kind of like break apart with our own sort of our own specific skill set and kind of put out fires or address things that needed addressing. And I ended up, since I was, I'd been a story artist, I ended up kind of breaking away at a certain point to concentrate on boarding our third act, which it barely existed in script form at the time. And,
visually a very simple third act, as I recall.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, really like a piece of cake.
Very simple third act.
Yeah, like, yeah, I could show you those boards. Like, it's pretty close to what it was in the boards.
I mean, the boards are so important to a concept like this because there could be arguably so little to ground you in this space that the composition is tremendously important. The motion is incredibly important. And it's something that I think that people know they liked about animation afterward because it felt good and they understood it. But it might not be something that you'd think, oh, it was probably because it was storyboarded really well to make any of this understandable.
Yeah. It really was. The level of collaboration on something like this. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, I would board version after version after version. We'd cut it. Bob was supervising the animation at that point. It was kind of all his ball game, and he would take we'd take it into layout and work with layout, and then give it to the animators, and they would plus it and bring more to it, and then you'd go back to layout, and you know how it is. It's just this constant organic churn.
I know how it is on most animated films, but this one I've always been curious about, like, what did like turnovers between departments look like with all these non-traditional elements? Like you have, this is one that always comes up to me is the motion blur, like stuff like, I love this because a lot of it looks like accidents, and there's a hand in a second that right here that looks like an accident that gets to stay in. And I'm curious, like were these decisions made in compositing? Were they made in animation? Like
Animation.
In animation?
What it was early on, and I think it was Bob's idea to animate it on 2s instead of 1s. And the thought was that animating on 2s, which some of the like 60s Disney's movies are on 2s. I think Dalmatians is on 2s. I think, and the ones that are more graphic and slightly more stylized, 2s gives it a punchier kind of like a more illustrative quality. We were after something that felt more illustrative and graphic, like a comic book, than the perfect, smooth, flowing imitation of life sort of Disney style that CG movies were pretty much dominated by. So we wanted to get back to a graphic kind of punchy feel where you're holding the poses a little longer, so they're registering a little longer in your head, as if you're reading a comic book that's got those dynamic poses. And this was that Bob was the big evangelist for this, and it was just brilliant. It also caused a lot of technical issues because in CG, your backgrounds have to be smooth; they can't be jaggy. So they have to be on 1s, even if the characters are on 2s.
Well, and so that's something I love is that is the case. I mean, you look right here, you see they're on characters on 2s, and that's on backgrounds on 1s. This seems like the kind of thing that, like, honestly, like scrubbing through here, I look at it and my director brain, my quality control brain tells me something's off and this isn't going to work because you can't do something like this where all these different elements are in different frames. And so I'm curious, like, I have to imagine this is the kind of movie that when you're going through stages where it isn't working, it's probably extra frustrating or daunting from the standpoint of being the person in charge. I guess it helps to have a team of directors that are all, equally responsible for something. You can kind of share the like pressure, but I'm curious about like keeping morale up with yourself and with your team. Like in what I imagine was like, I don't know why I immediately think this must have been a roller coaster of a movie to make.
It was a roller coaster of a movie to make. Fortunately for me, I'm not an animation tech head. I can direct performance, but it's like I'm like the guy who's like, I can drive the race car and I'm really good and I can like, maneuver and all that stuff. But when it comes to really working with the car, I can pump the gas and not too much more.
No, I can relate.
A guy like Bob Persichetti, Bob was trained under Glenn Keane and I think Andreas Deja at Disney. So he's like, he can take the car and take out the carburetor and put in a new, solenoid and just whatever, he really knows it from the inside out. So it was crucial to have a guy like that kind of driving a lot of this. And there were a lot of technical innovations that Sony ImageWorks spearheaded to be able to pull this off. A lot of software that they had, proprietary software that they had to come up with to be able to do this stuff. And stuff like the multiple images, we didn't have any motion blur. That was one of the mandates, no computer motion blur. Again, that was in service of making it graphic and punchy and kind of get a sort of hand-drawn look, even though it's CG. We wanted to get the hand of the artist in there. So it's kind of the multiple images, and you'll see a lot of like limbs that have been telescoped and sculpted in different ways. Yeah, it's all to create the illusion of blur and the illusion of.
And was that left up to the animators to like per their taste.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, as per the moment. Yeah. I mean, what it was kind of that was a technique, but it was sort of like whatever worked and whenever it was most necessary.
Yeah.
And of course took a lot of trial and error, a lot of time to develop it. I mean, but the look, our production designer, Justin Thompson, who's like a genius, and he's one of the directors on Across Spider-Verse now. He so much of the look, he refined it and just took the, he was really the one, I think, that spearheaded the idea of the Abende dots as a way to render light in the movie, which was like
such a great execution of that. It was really fun to see. I mean, a full feature where that was just embraced and
yeah. So it was, but see, something like that took like, it took us like a year to get to an image of a person just standing in normal light that looked right for the movie.
Do you remember at what point you had seen tests that you were excited about in terms of final, and where that was in relation to what you were boarding, and if those two informed each other once you knew that this style was going to pay off, or that you'd be able to pull it off? Or were you boarding ahead assuming that it was up to downstream to fix?
Yeah. No, we just, you're cranking on all fronts. So we were just boarding, assuming that, eventually we'd figure it out. And then I remember there was an early test of Miles and Peter talking on a subway platform. That was the one where really the integration of characters into the environment really started to come together. And there was another one we did of Miles, a close-up of Miles, where we had animated him to a little piece of dialogue, and that was the first time we started getting the render right on the with the cross hatching on the face and the dots. I think so, because what had happened was they managed to kind of like perfect a background look that everybody was really happy with. It was rendering inorganic surfaces and tone and how you're going to handle light, and that's light and shadow and that sort of thing. And that was all looking great, but it was like, what are the people going to look like though? What is that? What's the surfacing going to be like on them? And that started to come together, and I think everybody started to feel like, oh man, this is really going to be something, So that was the first inkling, but then there was like, okay, now we got all the multiverse stuff, we've got all the, the cast of thousands and whatever else.
But it's an incredible final product that's like that. I do believe. You should see the Art of the Spider-Verse book. Seth and I both just grabbed that once it was available, and it paid off in award season, and I think became very inspirational for other people realizing that that animation can have so many different.
And it set a bar. And even if it didn't push the boundaries of animation, the story itself and the storytelling itself, the pacing of the movie is absolutely like unparalleled.
It does. It's not an easy story to tell, I would imagine.
No, I feel like it would be a difficult story to tell, even as a live action, movie without any kind of artistry, like any kind of animation artistry challenges as well. Peter, I want to know: are you allowed to talk about what you're working on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And juggling a bunch of things. I'm in Annecy, France right now for the Annecy Animation Festival, and I'm here to promote something that I executive produced for Disney Plus, and it's called Kizazi Moto. It's an anthology of short films by African animators, directors, and writers, and it's 10 short films that are all an African perspective on science fiction. And they're really
sounds utterly incredible.
Exciting.
They're really cool. Yeah, there's like, a variety of styles, a variety of tones, and it's all kind of a showcase for all these incredible people. It's funny, a lot of whom I met on my first ever trip to Africa. I got invited to the Cape Town Animation Festival the year after Spider-Verse, and when I was there, I just I didn't know there was like an animation scene in South Africa. I had no idea, and I got dropped into the middle of this thing, and it was like amazing, just the energy and the enthusiasm and the talent that they had there. A lot of the people that I met there ended up being involved in this anthology. So it was a collaboration with a studio down there called Triggerfish, and they there we go. That's Raymond Malinga's film, but this is clips from all of them, and it's a collaboration with a studio called Triggerfish in South Africa, and they had contacted me, I guess, close to a year after I had met them at the festival, and said, "Hey, that anthology idea we were sort of daydreaming about, it looks like we pitched it to Disney Plus, and they want to do it. So would you be interested in coming on board and helping?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Because I had loved the people in the community so much that I wanted to be a part of it. So 3 years later, here we are.
That is the fun thing about animated movies, is that if you're used to producing anything else and you hear, "How long were you making it?"
Oh God, yeah, I know, man. It's rough, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding when you actually arrive at the finished product, and if you're working with good people, the process is a blast. And all these people were great, and they were so open and collaborative, and excited about the chance to show what they could do on like a larger stage. That it really was a joy. So it's going to premiere on Apple Plus on July 5th. And after Annecy, we're actually going down to Johannesburg to premiere it there. So that'll be a blast.
I love Johannesburg.
Oh, that's really so cool.
Speaking of great people, Peter, thank you for taking your time out of Annecy to come on our dumb little show and talk to us. This has been absolutely a treat.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Old pal. So I'm more than happy to do it.
No, we're so thankful to have you, and I cannot wait to see the bazillion new and amazing things that you're involved in. Please, check out Peter Ramsey, and he's making everything that you love, and
just watch everything with his name on it. Go ahead this weekend and make it a Peter Ramsey weekend, and just watch everything he's made, and rent it where you can, so he gets the I want to say royalties, but that's a music term.
It's probably like 125th of 1 cent or something.
Get him that 125th.
Much appreciated.
He earned it.
Awesome. Well, it was a real pleasure, Peter. We appreciate it so much.
It happened. We did it. Oh, Hashi's muted.
I'm
I was going to talk for you.
Speechless.
That was a really good interview. Tons of cool stuff. I really enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah, Peter's a legend. Because as you heard, even if he's got his fingerprints all over movies, like some of your favorite movies going back decades, like that you didn't even realize he was in your life, and he has always been there. So people are asking in the chat, what are we creating today besides all these good vibes with Peter Ramsey?
Oh, yeah, good vibes, of course, which are necessary to jump into the Spider-Verse. But right as we transitioned into this multiverse, or what do you say? Do you say this universe, or is each one now singularly a multiverse? I think
the multiverse is the collection of all the
collection of universes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, either way, we had a very exciting intro into it. I was so pumped when we transitioned over here, and
one of my favorite intros we've done.
A lot of really cool visuals from the way that they present and get you into the Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah. So it was a team effort, two of us doing this intro. You took the amazing studio logo recreations, which is usually something I do, and I love that you took these and I'm excited to talk about a few key moments of the creation of those. The logo, I took on recreating the logo, and I took a special interest in recreating the glitch that happens when you are when you're in the wrong universe in these movies. And I just want to point out we're not spoiling anything from Across the Spider-Verse. So when I said these movies, I mean I'm only going to talk about stuff that you definitely seen the first one or the trailer for the second one. But the glitch is something that is an effect that actually came out pretty cool, and I'd love to walk through that. And what are you going to do in the show today, Hosh?
I think that after you show off that, I may show off a couple of techniques for trying to create. There's this little clip that I shared online just before this of our very own Spidey Raptor.
Oh, yeah.
If we have I think it's in our folder, but I forgot to ask you to pull it up to be able to preview this.
I'll find it. First, we have... This is, I think my screen's showing. This was, you originally were like, okay, so what do I change Columbia to? And I think you had the idea for Content Aware Phil and putting Phil's face over Annette Bening's face. I mean, I say Annette Bening like that's common knowledge. I'm pretty confident. We're all confident that's Annette Bening. And then you were like, I don't know, how do I do Content Aware Phil as a full title? And then I think I suggested just put content up top and then Aware Phil at the bottom. And the second you changed the Columbia logo to say content, we both busted out laughing, because this is still the funniest thing to me, is a movie studio logo that just says in prestigious letters, content.
It is phenomenal. It is the studio not knowing. Yeah.
And so I couldn't help myself. I had to make this new drop. So we have that for
that is phenomenal.
Whenever we make something of quality. Another thing that you created, by the way,
nearly every show.
While we're talking about stuff that we created, I do want to also a great turning point was your recreation of the Sony logo at the top was incredibly cool. And when we get to you, I want you to show how you did it.
I enjoy that.
But and now we also thankfully have a new reaction drop for, whenever we want to apologize.
Whenever we've taken it too far, whenever the dad jokes are coming in too hot.
Dad jokes. Woo!
Exactly. So, all right. So let's talk about this glitch stuff. I'm going to start a new, I guess I'm just diving in, right? It's so weird to be like talking to Peter Ramsey and then suddenly like showing stuff off.
How to do things.
How to do things. Yeah. So, let's do, I'm in frames mode right now, not for time code wise. And so I always get thrown off because my brain thinks more in time code. And so 700 frames, let's just do that. Why not? It's actually pretty long. Why don't I go here, 200?
Excellent. I'm more comfortable.
200 frames is a little less than 10 seconds if you're doing 24 frames per second.
Too much. I'm going to do 100 frames. That's much easier to work with. Okay. So first, we're just going to do the glitch stuff. I'm not going to show you how to recreate the Spider-Verse logo like we did. I can if we have time, but I don't know if we really have time for that.
No. You find the right font and you make it look like the one that was designed already.
Exactly.
All of these effects, like if you couldn't tell from our interview with Peter, a ginormous team of artists working at full capacity helped design all of these looks and all of the things that we are going to be mimicking today. So whether or not it is easy to reproduce somebody else's work, remember that real artists come up with just the most amazing things by putting in the hard work up front.
That's right. Hard work.
Seth, there was a question from Nick in the chat about what typeface you're using for the little tags under our pictures here. So thank you for showing off.
Toontown Industrial Condensed Italic. There's a ton of like comic book fonts in there. This is one I already had and I liked the look of it. And so
there you go, Nick Smith. That one's for you.
So this is probably too big because it's more fun to show off a smaller thing. So I've got this text here. And so the look, by the way, that we're talking about recreating, why don't we jump to these clips here.
Ooh, I love clips, especially from this movie. I could just watch. Oh, look at those three!
Look at them. Okay, so that was me editing the OBS clips. Here we go. So, nope, wrong thing. Come on, Seth. Here we go. I believe this is from Into the Spider-Verse. This is where Peter B. Parker glitches here is a good example of it. It does this full-on mosaic-y thing where it does this like fractal split thing and then with displacement and cool colors and such, and at various different frame rates too. So going with these as reference, and you'll see our logo at the top kind of recreates it a little bit every like 5 or 10 seconds. And definitely let me know if that logo's too busy for you. I can definitely fix it. So jumping back, I'm going to attempt to do that this way. And Hashi had a great idea to start as a display. Basically, it was like, I need a way to make a displacement map that's not just a bunch of squares or blocks, but that looks kind of like shattered glass or that kind of shape. And Hashi, you pointed out one of your favorites.
Yes. The very first episode I did of Cheap Tricks featured this effect, basically, to do a shattered glass distortion. Cell pattern. And I'm going to be bringing cell pattern into some of the work that I do today. Because, some of these oldies are goodies,
They are goodies. They're great goodies.
Was that the Wrinkle in Cheap Tricks, Hash?
Say it again?
Was that Wrinkle in Time?
The Wrinkle
in Time, yes. Yeah, Wrinkle in Time. It's Wrinkle in Time, I think is
Wrinkle in Time. It's Wrinkle in Time, guys. So static plates is what I'm going to set mine to, and I'm going to crank the sharpness all the way up to the top. And
ooh, those look sharp.
They look sharp, right?
It's really fun. It's really funny that we're doing that this week because I used this same technique just a little bit ago to do a camera lens shattering effect.
Oh, really?
For a VFX gig. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's perfect.
So like disperse is turned all the way down to these blocks, but if I turn them up there, they look like this thing that I wanted to look like. And I can animate them too. I can actually just automatically animate them by alt-clicking on this timer and say time times maybe 400. Let's see what that looks like. And so that's going to evolve like
there
this.
It is.
And then
jittering around.
I definitely want to then
doing a little jig.
They're getting jiggy with it, as they say. Posterize time. Let's set it to 12. So now it's happening on 2s.
Never drink unpasteurized time.
Seth, is there a reason for posterizing time effect here rather than putting posterize into the expression?
Because I'm dumb and lazy. And it was easiest for me.
Yeah, if you don't know, you can put the phrase posterize time with a capital T in there, and then a frame rate, and then semicolon, and then whatever the rest of your expression is going to be. If you want to,
it still works.
Look at that. There we go.
So let's just stick with that, right? Let's get rid of this posterized time. Actually, no. Here's why I did it. I remember why I did it. I'm not just stupid and lazy. I'm not just stupid and lazy, guys. I contain multitudes.
So much more.
So I actually want to randomly change up the frame rate. I don't want it to stick at 12. So to create some chaos, I'm going to wiggle this frame rate a little bit. Actually, let's not wiggle it. Let's instead just keyframe it. So I'll start at 12. I'll randomly kick to 8. And then back to 12. I'm just typing stuff in to see what happens, right?
That's all any title designer ever does.
And so now it does this a little more glitchy, jittery, sure, that's the right word, thing. I'll maybe go up to 16 and then back to 8 and then to 12 and to 6 and to 12. So now it's a little freakier.
I just love those little things.
All right, so let's call those our cells. Let's turn it off. And let's do just the basic rudimentary stuff.
Switch.
Adjustment layer, like lights glitch. Adjustment layer, I'm going to call this displacement or displace or dis place.
This place right here.
Michael, you and I went to Dat Place last weekend.
We did go to Dat Place last week.
Which was the design and animation tour.
It was a ton of fun.
It was great. I got to see you in person for the first time in years. You don't even remember the first time.
It was a good time.
So displacement map on the displace adjustment layer. I'm going to set the displacement map layer to cells and set it to effects and mask. And now I'll just crank up this horizontal and vertical. Already you're seeing
such a great, simple, just beautiful effect. I love this effect.
Now something I noticed.
I was going to say, what about chromatically displacing it?
Oh, just you wait. It gives us a very cool thing that I didn't expect it to give us. So one thing, though, is that our layer underneath is, I want it to move a little bit too. So I'm actually going to wiggle the position. But first I'm going to say posterize time. I'm going to put that first. I'm going to say 12 frames per second. Semicolon, wiggle, and then in parentheses, I'll say 3, so that's the frequency, and the amount, I'll say 15. So now it's wiggling. I'm going to posterize time even more. I'm going to set it to 6.
What? You're a madman.
So now we're having some fun, right? Maybe I even say 8.
Yeah.
Now back to 6. I don't care. Who cares?
Nobody.
Maybe
for those who are interested in seeing what happened at Dat Nashville, by the way, the replay link is in the chat.
It is. Me and Michael and Darby Vicento and Andrew Kramer and several other people whose names I am completely forgetting, like a stars group of roster of people on a table, on a stage behind a table, saying very stupid things to make each other laugh for the for the very unmiked and quiet room before us. Posterize time for rotation. Let's say 6, and I'll wiggle it too. Rotation wiggle shows up pretty fast, so you want to just do like 5. So now I've got a little bit of glitchiness happening here. And so you're talking about chromatic displacement. So why don't I show you what that looks like? I can drop that on to another adjustment layer here, and I'm going to set its displacement layer to be the cells and effects and mask. Whoa, something's happened to my graphics card. That did not happen before. That's new.
Ooh, that's nifty.
It's
this multiverse, man.
It is. This is new. This did not happen to me maybe it's because I'm broadcasting at the moment.
I always blame OBS.
I may not get to use chromatic displacement on this. That's okay. Next, I believe... so a little trick that Michael showed Hashi and Hashi showed me. I'm going to use this to make a Luma map. I want to create a Luma map using these cells, but their baseline is gray. Like I kind of want to level out to where all the gray is black and just show the white parts. But I basically want it to line up with these cells, but I don't want to reference the cells layer as a Luma map, and then because I want to adjust it before it becomes a Luma map. So I'm going to apply, and there's probably an easier way to do this, but calculations lets you...
As featured last week on VFX and Chill.
That's right.
And always in Michael's heart.
Always in Michael's heart. Second source, I'm going to set to cells and effects and mask and turn that up to 100. Now I've got a second instance of the cells, and it lines up with what the cells pattern's doing.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is that instead of making like a duplicate of the layer with like using the copy with relative links or whatever, is that you don't have it generating this image twice. You don't have all the expressions bogging things down. Like it's just taking the already rendered thing and just copying it over. So it saves you on processing power and complexity.
Exactly. And so I can put right after that a levels effect and crank and crush the blacks here to where basically everything that was gray in the original. So here's the original cells. Here's the new one I'm going to use as a Luma map. All right there. And if I go to the cells pattern and say I want to Let's do a brightness and contrast, set it to use legacy. I can turn contrast down and it goes to black on the Luma map, but on cells it goes to gray like I need it to.
Nice.
And that's what I need it to do. So turning this contrast back up to 0, I am going to now turn both those off. And I believe, so there's a couple things that I can do here. One of them is I can make an adjustment layer and say set matte. Set it to the Luma matte, effects and masks. And set it to luminance. And now it is only showing specific parts of that. But what happens if I do a little something? Actually, I'm going to back up for a sec. And instead, I'm trying to think. If I'm doing this from memory. I have a thing open somewhere, but let me come back to that second. I'm going to do a solid. I'm going to do the Colorama part first. If I want to copy this calculations, paste it onto this Colorama layer, and then apply Colorama after, I now get all these super fun colors. And if I want, I can then say set matte. Use the Luma map, luminance. So now those colors kind of pop up. I can cycle through these phases to change the colors of these guys.
What? Dude, that looks so cool.
But then the real fun, and then what you want to do is just add another set matte and set it to your glitch layer. And now you've got these individual little colored glitches happening. And I think if I go in and I go into the Luma map and adjust like the contrast on this, I'll get a much stronger stuff happening. Now, what is something really fun? You can take this to the next level, applying glitch, universe glitch to the bottom layer. Go to choose a preset. Big chunks down in the text. And now
big chunks.
You get this like crazy glitchy stuff happening along with the displacement stuff. Now the Colorama stuff, I'm going to come back to. I'm going to set that to actually be, I want these big chunks. So here's the full disclosure, which is that these are the things that I poked around with to create the looks that you saw on the show. So here, if I open up my prep, the stuff you see in our OBS setting system scenes right now, these are all the tricks that I'm using to do stuff. So like here, for example, is some glitchy stuff that I made using this same stuff. Come on, play. Why don't I go to this guy? So this, for example, see, chromatic displacement's happening in this one. So check this out. Chromatic displacement, I didn't label my layers here, but
you should always label your layers.
Always label your layers. So if I turn on, this is chromatic displacement. For some reason, dude, I don't know why, it just does these cool edges and it makes these. No, it's the color separation. It's the displacement.
Do you want to know why?
Yeah, tell me.
It does that? Because unlike the displacement map, which moves pixels based on the pixel values underneath it, it's fine for a lot of things and gets you what you need in some situations, but can give you that kind of X-y look. Is because it's pushing it based on the underlying pixel values, whereas a chromatic displacement pushes it based on the ramp between values.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that's why if you have a radial gradient, you get a weird X-y thing in displacement, which is not what you want. But you get a lovely round-looking displacement and chromatic displacement because it's based on basing on the gradient between colors versus on the color values themselves.
That's fascinating. So that is why we get these really cool cracks in the surface. So if you combine that with the displacement layer, you now get this incredibly cool 3D looking displacement happening.
It works so good. And there is also there's prism displacement in Universe, which is kind of similar, but I usually use chromatic displacement in the VFX suite.
And then another look that I was able to get that I really loved, my favorite character from Across the Spider-Verse, he's in the trailer, he's the Spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman. I love the look of that character, and I'm using this, that's the other thing that I left out, was this effect that I have from AE Scripts called M's Halftone, which if I just make a, let's make a, what's a good universe background layer that creates some ramps, but not just one ramp? The Spectralicious?
Spectralicious, yeah. Spectralicious is a 6-point gradient.
Great. So now I'm going to apply M's Halftone on top of that. And that's what it gives me. And I can adjust the dot size.
Oh, that's so pretty.
I can rotate the dots. I can also do squares or lines. I use these on all of our plot devices, promotional imagery that I'll make based on Michael Lanier's design direction that he made for a bunch of our blog headers and stuff going way back. So I'll do this often, and let me just duplicate it and take halftone off the bottom one. A couple things you can do. The top one has halftone. The bottom one is just Spectralicious. So you can turn the alpha on, and it will just render this black foreground, right? Or the black dots. Or you can turn the alpha off and play with blend modes. To get some really, really interesting looking stuff. And that's super cool right there.
Those are so pretty.
And so I did a lot of this in the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse background things that I was building for our OBS setups. Let me see. So this little white, I love when this white cow dot kind of look that looks like the Spot look. That's a combination of halftone that I have set to normal, but it's unmulted with chromatic displacement, and it's randomly happening on a couple frames. This is
so neat.
And then I've got color stuff with Colorama. Here, Colorama levels unmulted. That's what it was. Then a set matte to the logo, so it only shows up on top of the logo. That's kind of the cocktail of stuff that I use to get this glitchy stuff going.
Nick Smith in the chat says they can already tell they're going to have to watch this week's recording a couple of times before this all makes sense.
Yeah,
Possibly.
It's all backwards. The heart of it, it's you create your base, you create your the cell pattern,
your shatter profile.
Yeah, and you use this to create as a displacement map, and then you also want to double it up with calculations to create a luminance map. Now I just realized what I'm doing. What I actually ended up doing was I applied Colorama. Okay, this makes more sense now. So let me turn off some stuff so you can just see. So what I actually did for these color layers was, I'll turn them all off. I brought in calculations to replicate my cell pattern that I had made, referencing that with effects and mask, and this second layer opacity turned up. Turned on Colorama, and I believe I used that's some version of RGB, I think. Yeah, it's the RGB color palette. Then levels I have on here, and I don't remember why. I guess it was just to darken up the darkest parts. Yeah, it's the same thing. I basically, the thing that I did earlier, I put it after Colorama for some reason. I think as if I put it here, I get less colors. So I put it after Colorama so I will get some black in there. Then I Universe Unmult to get rid of all the darker levels, make them transparent. Then I use Set Matte and set it to the logo that's underneath all of this, so it would only show up on top of the logo. And then I set it to Screen Blend mode, and you can experiment with blend modes, and that's what created this layer of stuff. I think I have some...
I wonder if using another different seed of the cell noise, or maybe this calculations effect version of it to drive time displacement would also be fun for glitchy effects.
Oh, dang. Let's try that. I love that idea.
Wild. Yeah, whenever you start playing around with something like that, you can get...
Well, especially on characters, because then you'd have the
things.
character's head in two different places and at two different points in time.
Let's do that, Michael. So walk me through that. So I have this separate cells now layer that...
Well, if you just use that to drive a time displacement effect over top of everything, what you'll get is the black and white values will push the time forward and backwards based on the black and white values. It's a really cool way to get like a slit scan effect if you got somebody spinning around.
I always forget about time displacement.
Time displacement's fun.
Everyone does. The Avengers forgot about it the first time around, darn it.
They did. So I use the cells for time and effects and masks.
Mm-hmm.
And
then you just push...
turn all my other stuff.
Now, doing it at the start of your timeline won't be very handy because it won't be able to go backwards in time. But in the middle is when you'll really get the full effect of it pushing forward and back in time as the animation
working
happens.
hard for sure.
Yeah.
So time displace, I have it time seconds, 1 second. Resolution 60, is that?
1 second seems a little long for something like this.
0.5. Man, it is working hard.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of grayscale values too. So it's basically it's having to look at is for every one of those different gray values, it's looking forward and back in time to pull that value from it. Like it's working. It's gonna have to work hard on this something like this.
Well, then why don't I turn it off real quick and turn up the contrast and use that.
Up the contrast.
Turn off the dark.
I'd make your pattern. There you go.
Ooh, sorry, I'm excited now.
Isn't it good?
I'm hitting play. Let's see. I mean, it definitely adds an extra layer of stuff. So that's with time displace off. That's with it on.
Yeah, it just adds another layer of stuff because it will be timing.
Damn it.
Glitched as well. So it'll be glitching in time as well as space as well as color. Like it just adds another lovely little level.
I love lovely little levels. Why don't I do a separate? So why don't I reference cells for time?
About how long did it take you to kind of figure out this initial recipe?
How long were we on the call the other day, Hush? This was
That's
the first
a good
day.
question.
I mean, it took me about 2 hours to figure this out, I think.
It was really exciting to see it come together the other day, honestly.
I think it took me like an hour or two to like rebuild the logo and because the logo is doing its own animation to match the look of the logo in the movie or on the trailers. So I got that, and then I jumped into the glitch stuff. And what I wanted to do was make a template. I still want to, where it's like a drag and drop pre-comp stuff and some sliders for you to be able to like put this on anything. Like I also wanted to shoot a plate of myself on a green screen and do like and glitch myself a little bit.
Oh,
like
nice, yeah.
Maybe I'll do that while you're working, but
I mean, that's one of the coolest things about building something procedural like this is that you can, you can reuse it for multiple projects. You can try out different things like that. It's just a really cool.
And again, a reminder about what Seth said earlier, that even though he was able to recreate this in only a couple of hours, the original look dev that went into making the thing in the first place and coming up with the concept would take a lot longer.
Oh yeah, because I'm not finding a look that I like. I'm recreating a look, which obviously takes a much quicker amount of time.
Coming up with the original look it's going to be the bulk of the time on a lot of projects, especially something as stylized as the Spider-Verse films.
So
Like,
if I put the time displacement, by the way, to where it's not like a multiple 2 or something, it then creates the kind of look that I want, where like the time displacement is off.
Happens after.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
that's fun. Oh crap, that's cool.
It looks so good.
I could even turn up the size on the time displacement. Yeah, that's it. That rules. You rule. So,
Get it.
Hashi,
Incredible.
I left you a little time.
Little time. It'll be enough. It should be great. So
because Hashi, you put out something cool on Twitter today.
Oh yeah. Let me see. I'll pull that clip up so I can play it over on this end. Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen.
Yeah, that's why you look so
How
pristine.
inconsiderate. Yeah. Now I've got to share my screen and lose this whole lovely skincare regimen. Let's see. Where did we render our renders?
Hang on, while
Renders
Hashi looks
folder.
for this, Seth, someone is
Amazing.
asking about your custom script bar you've got docked on your side there, your Worley scripts.
Yeah.
Can you just, while Hashi looks for his thing, just really quick mention what that is?
Yes, that is a series of scripts that I rely on, as I've talked about on the show before. This is ChatGPT has opened up a lot of stuff for me and helped me learn how to write script panels to help automate a lot of things and make my process more efficient and get knocked down on stuff that tends to eat up time, like comp creation and project file creation and stuff. I've got a panel, basically it's like I've got this, start from the bottom. I've got a button that I click version up and it automatically does basically a save and increment, but it will find, I tend to work in with a main comp that's titled the same thing as the project file. So I don't have to change the name of the render whenever I render out. And I like to version up both the comp and the project file. So I'll click this button and it'll version up everything. I won't walk through all these buttons, but like this render button here is different from just hitting render because I've got this new thing I made called folders that lets me specify what render folder for that project file I always want to go to. Because the thing that drives me nuts is when I'll do add to render queue, and I assume it's going to the last place it rendered, but it always goes to this one VFX Royale episode from like 9 months ago.
Oh my goodness, mine does the exact same thing for some reason.
Yeah, and so what I do is I've created this thing where I can set where I want it to always render and what template I want it to always render in, and I can save the folders, and it will save it and then load it back up. It'll always reference a little text file with that information. So I can just hit render and it'll automatically go to where it's supposed to go and in the format that I want it to go to. Up here, I've got a bunch of shortcuts to create stuff, create, an element layer for me with some presets I use a whole lot, like some camera shake stuff, particular. Then it gets more into sketch specific projects. Sketch is the movie that I'm in post on right now. These will I'm working in anamorphic 2:1 aspect ratio, and that gets some third-party plugins don't play well with that. So I have to create a square pixel aspect ratio pre-comp where both the plate is pre-comp to be pixel aspect ratio and the comp it's in is square pixel aspect ratio. And so I have these buttons to automatically do that and apply things to them like geo tracker or lockdown or just a standard camera tracker. Guide LUTs, that just creates a LUT that's a guide layer with the specific LUT that I want on the top. And then all these guys up here, I've got a layer library, which I've showed on the show before, that allows me to store specific assets that I reference a whole lot.
It's just the cheat panel. It's just it's the Game Genie panel, basically.
It is. And then
Super cool.
VFX and Chill, it always checks it looks whenever the panel loads, it looks at our VFX and Chill folder on Dropbox and populates this menu with this week's episode folder at top and previous episodes if I need to work in that folder, and it'll just create my prep file or my show file. And then Sketch, same thing, where I can automatically import plates. I can create a new comp based on the reel and shot number. The ones that are grayed out are ones that already have a project file, so I can open those up by using open. et cetera, et cetera. And then I can purge my first I can check the cache up here. Click this button. It'll show me how full the cache is. I don't know why it's working so hard right now, and then I can click it and purge the cache without having to go to the menus and stuff. Anyway,
well, I'm gonna cut you off because
it's time.
It's time. So, Michael, you were probably referring to this clip that I have over here that I posted just this morning. It was just a little.
Nice.
Yeah. So just a fun little VFX and Chill style clip here. So I wanted to try to, let me see if we can make this some kind of reasonable size here. I just wanted to create a cool little action scene of Spidey Raptor in kind of an Into the Spider-Verse style. And this all came together very last minute, sort of in little stolen moments over the course of the night as we take care of our brand new puppy who has to go out to the restroom all the time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this and how I'm putting this look together and some of the tools. One of the things that you did, Seth, that was pretty cool was that amazing halftone pattern, or the Ben-Day dots, as Peter was referring. Ben-Day is the process where your red, blue, and green are all halftone patterned together, and they sort of overlap and create that comic book look. And so I have a version of it that I wanted to share that you can do in After Effects. And so like you turn this, for example, I grabbed this still of Spider-Man because this version of Spider-Man is very like smooth,
smooth
and doesn't have enough Spider-Verse-iness. So you can turn something like this into something like this.
Yeah.
Yes. Practically noir.
That is
Noir-y Spider-Man. Oh, that's it. Spider Noir.
Or as we otherwise know him, Nicolas Cage.
Exactly. So there are a couple ways that I think can be fun to recreate a halftone pattern. So in this case, you can see that if I turn it on, it looks like this, sort of on top of everything, if I have it as filling it with white here. And what I'm doing for this effect is the following. I'm grabbing let's start from scratch here. I'll grab a duplicate of my footage layer, and then I will add the effect. What did I do on this? Did I use calculations on its own layer? That's very silly. A copy of this layer here. We're going to go up and we're going to say generate cell pattern, just like Seth did earlier. And then we're going to go to, we're going to leave it on bubbles. We're going to turn down the disperse, which is going to line them all up and just puts them on a grid like that.
It looks almost like CC ball action here.
It does look a little bit like that.
CC ball action.
I wasn't quick enough on it.
I was
going to ask, why are you using this instead of
CC ball action?
Oh, you want to see some CC ball action, everybody?
Yeah, I do.
That's what they came here for. I know.
The chat was asking for it.
Okay, so let's refer you to our amazing. Actually, let's try it with. Do this. What
font is that? Hang on. What font is that?
That's Alte has Grotesque.
Okay, that looks so good because it looks like the epitome of like film, like
it's like
optical text.
Burn to film. It really does. I love it.
You could drop my optometry script on top of it, or preset on top of it, and make it look like optical text.
What was the font that we ended up using for
Clarendon?
Sony?
Is Sony's
Clarendon. All right, so let's just do a little bit of what I'm not great at doing, which is some title design kind of stuff.
I don't know, man. Killed it.
Thank you. I want to show you something fun. So we're doing, our Sony logo situation. So we just created a text layer like this, but then I did something really fun. I duplicated the layer, leave it as a text layer, and then I'm going to add a little bit of CC ball action.
CC ball action.
Now, CC ball action, as you all
CC
know,
ball action.
takes.
You can't say the name.
Now, this particular plugin, which is not particular, by the way, just takes your image and creates this cool, like, look at this. You can make like this Vegas sign right here. See, you've got a beautiful Vegas signage thing right now using that effect. But yeah, it clearly splits your image into a lot of balls that you can choose the grid spacing for. So if I turn down the spacing, you can sort of see that now it's filling it up a little bit more densely. And I could even turn that off and you can just see this. So the Sony logo, the way they did it is all pretty uniform kind of little pixels or halftone pattern dots. And I think that they might have been pretty small. I might have even had the grid spacing at 1 and had these dots
Tell you what,
pretty small.
why don't we real quick just go to the show what it looked like from the film.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is
Here's what it looks like in the film, everybody.
extremely fun and thrilling. It goes boom, and then it flies in and becomes the square, the dots.
yeah.
It literally is what you did. Like, you recreated it so freaking well.
And it was so fun. It was just throwing this unnamed filter onto here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a camera. And I'm going to make sure that my original Seth right here is a 3D layer. And this other copy of Seth, I don't need to do anything with because CC Ball Action is a 3D
CC ball action.
plugin. So check this out. If I just have this layer on, when I've got the camera here, look at this.
Hey.
Look at that. So it's a real 3D effect. And in fact, you can do things like turn up this 3D scatter on this. And so if you are in a pinch and just need a quick little bit of 3D-ness, do this.
And by this,
Anyway.
you mean
CC ball action.
But in my case, I just want to reset this camera. I'll just delete it and put a new one there. So basically, the premise was just have this original Seth be solid for a while, and then a couple seconds in, it would just fade all the way out, and so we're just left with the
like
dots.
the real me.
That way we can start here. We'll add some keyframes to our camera. It'll be a nice slow zoom out from here to about here.
I'm sorry. I just read Brittany Shepard's comment in the chat, and I don't know if she meant it funny, but it made me laugh.
Is it repeatable?
It just, can you men in all caps in response?
No.
What was the name of that optical style font that you liked earlier, Seth? Someone is trying to hunt it up.
Yeah,
on
Hashi,
Adobe
what was
fonts.
it?
Oh, it was it's like Alita Battle Angel. No,
It's kind of what it was.
Good gravy.
Alto-
Alte Haas Grotesque.
Alte Haas Grotesque.
It's like Haagen-Dazs, sort of.
I wrote this down on a memo pad. It's the only thing I've written down. If I
Love
die, paint it on a sled and hang it in my office so my family can find it.
So
Thank
look
you.
how quick this thing is to recreate, y'all. And then, of course, when I got to here, I actually created 2 instances of CC Ball Action. Did a slightly different grid distribution. I think I did grid distribution of 2, and then turned down the either down or up the ball size. I don't remember, but it allowed me to create a couple of copies. So as we got really close, you'd have a couple of different layers and sizes. And I think that you can use this twist property right here to turn and twist the actual letters around. So I could kind of make them slightly misaligned here at the very end. So I kind of get this thing right here. Anyway, I did something like this. And then I think over top of all of it, I had a couple of things going. I had an adjustment layer, and this adjustment layer had RGB separation. Universe.
RGB separation. I don't have a...
And basically that just takes this and you dial this up, and it separates the 3 channels, and then
that.
you can change the
I
angle
thought-
around like this. Look at that. So
I totally
simple.
thought you had, which by the way, that's like the A24. I thought you had layered up 3 like a red, a green, and a blue, like different.
Oh, I
layers.
would never do something with 3 when I could just do it with just this. I added RGB separation and also chromatic displacement, which both help toward the same end here. So let's solo these. So chromatic displacement right here. Wait, what? Does it need to be? Does it want to be first? What's happening? What's happening? Oh, am I in the wrong 3D view? No.
We have to turn chromatic displacement up some.
Well,
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not on by
chromatic
default.
displacement.
Aberration.
Chromatic aberration.
I get them mixed up too.
I was like, that did not look right. Chromatic.
Just remember, one is for
aberration,
displacing and one is for abs.
One's for abs. I'm gonna go wait on these chromatic. So look at this. So you can do this, but I think I actually did a negative distort, so it looks like it's.
Nice.
Yeah, here we go. Look at that. So you just find a nice distortion level like this. Throw this keyframe way out here, and then go
nice
kind of to the
level
beginning.
settle down with.
Turn it back down to 0, and so then like as your camera's moving forward through space, you get this nice analog cool glitchiness and separation, and then as that one layer fades out and you're left with a halftone pattern, it starts to get more 3D, and then you can go right into it. And then at the end here, Seth, I took your Seth had already rendered the looping background for our show, and so I just grabbed that.
Really?
I used this for a bunch of stuff in the graphics that I did, where I would just take this and throw it behind stuff or blur it out and go wonky with it.
Oh,
so
really?
I could go because there's just a handful of like weird flash frames, and I liked your colors. So
I like your colors.
There is the CC ball action halftone pattern. And one thing that I want to show off that you could do, like this is very simple. I'm just using like pure like whole dots in this case. But one of the neat things about CC ball action is, let me go over to, let's find this example again. So if we had this Spider-Man, for example, let's put him in a new comp, and we'll add some CC ball action.
CC ball.
I typed the CC, like I don't need to, because it's a bad search term for it. But you'll notice that they're all shaded as you kind of turn them down like this. And what's neat about anything that is shaded is that if you wanted to run an extract on this, it means it'll extract from the outside toward the inside, basically eroding away the dots. And the dots that are darker will erode faster if you use an extract. So check this out. Let's just add some keying, extract, and let's, I guess, put it in front of transparent. But as I start to clip the darkest values, you'll see that these dots don't just disappear, they shrink.
Ooh.
So kind of cool, right? So you can see that at this level, what you're getting is sort of like, anything like right in this range is shrinking away. And if you grab, the softness for your extract effect, you can take it and then dial out, kind of figure out how wide you want the spread of dots to be, which is kind of cool.
This is after CC ball action? That doesn't make sense to me.
This is after CC ball action because
CC ball action is what gives you the shading, which makes it shrink the balls.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're shaded lightest in the middle, lightest in the middle, and darkest on the edges.
I guess that makes more sense.
There's a light in the very center of the camera.
So you get this kind of effect,
a light bright,
which is pretty cool. A light bright. I think that there is a genuine light bright tutorial out there, which is probably where I heard about CC ball action in the first place.
Yeah.
But the other way that I like to create halftone patterns, I'll do this real quick, is, and then let's see, how much time we got? We got about a little under 20 minutes.
No. We have 15 extra because we went with 15 minutes.
Yeah, we have 15 extra, everybody.
Yeah.
All right,
30 minutes.
I am going to apply the cell pattern effect, famous from that glass shattering thing that you did, Seth.
Famous from it.
Grab it here. I'll turn the size down until I just have a bunch of little dots. I'll turn the disperse down so I have a little grid like this. And then I'm going to use some CC composite.
CC composite.
Right here. And what that did is it put the original layer right back in front of it, which is a little bit silly. But the reason I did that is because cell pattern, the effect, does not have any blending modes natively within it. And I want to keep this on one level because it's always fun to do that.
Real quick, do you know what I wish After Effects had? I was talking to you about this, Hashi, yesterday.
Ooh, tell me.
Michael, and you tell me if it does exist somewhere. So I want a version of CC Composite, but I want a version that, like, I want the counterpart with it, like its partner, that can capture a layer at its current state of effects, like in the stack.
That way down the layer stack, it's
and
right
so
there.
layer in the stack, you can reference that snapshot as a matte or as anything else, as a composite.
Oh, I was talking with the Adobe team at NAB about this because I desperately wanted it so bad.
Right.
And
they said,
I was talking with them
who
about
are
it there.
you? Please stop standing so close to us.
They all the Adobe folks very very well know me.
People. Yes, we love them.
I had one of them at my wedding, actually.
Aw.
Whoa, congrats. So,
that was a long time ago. You're like, you said congrats like it just happened.
All right, so CC Composite allows you to take the original layer and use a different blending mode to bring it to mix in with whatever you've created. So I created this cell pattern, for example, and now I'm going to use multiply on top of it. And now you can see we have a very similar effect to what was happening with CC Ball Action.
This is what I should have done with halftone. I mean, I could probably put this after CC Composite, after IM's halftone, and get the result, this exact result. You're a smart person.
Precisely. I'm so smart, Seth. One of these days, they'll recognize it. And look, very similar process. Extract, I dial that up. And what's neat about the cell pattern one is it just...
Oh, that looks so cool.
Yeah, it does.
So suddenly so neat. And you can adjust the size here of the cells as well. So I can turn them down like all the way to that, or I can turn them up a little bit. And then as you scale these, look at this.
If you turn them down, it starts to look like the Pixdither stuff.
It really does.
That rules.
Because it literally has like, when you get this low, the extract is basically forcing it into a binary on or off state along, a little solarization pattern.
Did you use this on your 8-bit thing?
No, actually.
Oh, it's great for it.
Should have. It would have been great. So
I'm kind of surprised we haven't hit Trapcode Form yet, or particular, because it's got the same functionality now of using a layer map to drive the size of particles.
That is actually where I had started for the Sony logo, and then was like, just for funsies, I'll try CC Ball Action because it'll make everybody happy, and then just ended up stuck there. So, well, mostly because we had to make that all yesterday. And
it's true. Just for the reference, I think it was Wednesday that I said, what do you want to do on the show this week? Spider-Verse? I feel like we don't have enough time to prepare for Spider-Verse. And look at us, Internet.
I know, like, that's a ginormous, crazy, acclaimed film series. How are we going to get a guest? How are we going to...
I'm joking. It wasn't Wednesday. We've been working all week, but still.
Once again, and I'll never say it enough, but again, a huge thank you to Peter Ramsey for hopping onto our show from Annecy.
Yeah. We didn't get him to record anything for a drop. I'm Peter Ramsey, and I was on the show once. That's what all our celebrities
Darby's
we need to. What's that, Michael?
Oh, I was just saying, Darby's. I was just bringing in the voice of the chat for just a second. Darby's saying that CC Ball Action is way lighter than Form for a lot of things. Yes, it is, because CC Ball Action is doing one thing, and Form is doing potentially hundreds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is lighter for the one thing, but when you need to get really involved, that's where Form, or Particular now, since Particular has the same functionality as Form, but
Darby,
with more power.
Darby, you also said I use CC Ball Action probably 4 times a week. That's an inside thought. That's something for you to keep out of the chat and to yourself. We don't need to know.
Speaking of things Darby has said, Darby and Justin Leduc have also both asked if you hold your nose when you jump in a pool, Seth.
Special shout out to Justin Leduc. I completely forgot. I don't remember this reference, what this is referencing. But I'm blanking. I've forgotten everyone's name from DAT. Michael, help me out. Moderator, he's our friend. We love him. We've been on his show before. Why am I blanking? Okay, doesn't matter. The moderator.
In the meantime, you think about that.
Dave Koss. The moderator read aloud.
Dave Koss?
Yeah.
Matt Milstead.
It was Dave. Dave read aloud. So I have a question from the chat. This is on a live event in stream. Question from the chat. Does Seth hold his nose when he jumps into water? And none of us understood what I was talking about. I did not. I was so confused. And I've seen Ledoux in other comments apologize profusely. I just want to make a call. But if you are a fan of VFX and Chill, one of our many children, and you want to publicly declare shout out an inside joke that no one will understand, even us. You will only gain more favor from us. So thank you for doing that. I want people seeing us in the streets and yelling CC ball action and then proceeding into a flash mob dance, fully choreographed for me to stand and watch awkwardly.
Think briefly about seeing if Peter wanted to record a CC ball action take.
Every guest should drop their own rap across it, and we should just layer them on top of each other over the course of every.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Back to real work.
I think our best song is the Chris Pine song, though.
We love Chris Pine. I wish he were mine. He's always on my mind, Chris Pine.
Special
my
cameo from Chris at the beginning of this episode too. Spider-Man himself, Peter
that
A.
was
Parker.
one of that I got. That intro, Seth, so delightful.
You're delightful.
Right, so I'll summarize what I did real quick with this thing. I wanted to have a Spider-Man, but I was like, that's kind of boring because we've already, Spider-Man. Like we all know what Spider-Man looks like, and so I decided instead to kind of come in here, like dive into point mode in Cinema 4D. Do something like that, and then enable a soft selection here, which allows you to grab several dots plus influence this section that the map is visible for. And then I just kind of dragged these out like that. And then basically, it would be cool if Maxon made, any other products that were designed for sculpting and act like literally used to sculpt Spider-Man suits from Marvel movies, but unfortunately,
if only
there
was some sort of industry standard sculpting tool that was used on the actual movies.
But in the meantime, we've got Hashi's good old Spidey Raptor, which was something in this realm. This
Hashi,
which has been through some stuff.
Hashi, there's the symmetry.
There's so many tools you could use. Michael can't even think of which one to mention.
What's frustrating?
Symmetry.
No, we dealt with this on the show with Seth. The person who baked this baked it not symmetrically, and so I tried aligning it, but the head is slightly turned.
Hashi. Oh, is it slightly turned?
Impossible. The head
I was going to say if you use
I did
the
actually
remesher,
use it for the original.
If you use the remesher, you can tick
But
on
I
to
have
have
UVs. I have UVs.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, you get it.
That's Dino from
freaking
Hang on. I really want to try the remesher though, because you can tick on make it.
Remesher.
Yeah, I know.
Make it,
we can
symmetrical.
remesh. We can do that, and we can say, I want it to be
Symmetrical on X. That was I
do use
see.
this.
See, then you can sculpt, and you'll get lovely Spooderman. Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, did that, and then threw it to our good old pal Mixamo, which gave us this.
Oscar
I didn't
Mixamo.
mean this. Oscar Mixamo. So yeah, uploaded this character, which very easily got
So
animated
stupid.
in here. He's so great. Just the awareness and coordination
Also,
and stuff like that.
That he's like just this image of him just in a warehouse running around flipping, like the idea of like this Spider Raptor is not saving anyone. He's just like running down the street doing flips.
Wait,
Like Tom Holland Spider-Man.
How about
would.
this?
No, I love that
Spiderweb.
Mixamo has Spider-Man swinging on a web, like a lot of Spider-Man-y things.
It is pretty cool. In
That would
fact,
look like
I
he's
think,
going to fall on his ass at the end of it.
if you look up swing, I'm pretty sure that the one that I used was, let's
Yes,
see, where's the
For your
swing to
viral
land
sensation.
one? Oh, yeah. Swing to land. Oh, I used a different one. But look at this. You got a beautiful Spidey animation. And yeah, you can download these, save them into Cinema 4D, mix them together with a motion clip builder,
Just do
all
it.
sorts of wonderful things. Just do it. But since we're getting a little bit tight on time, I did this, downloaded it,
25 minutes, man.
and then dove back into After Effects here, where we applied basically the same kind of deal. Let me open up that project. So I called that Spidey Flip, I think. All right, Spidey flip. So here is what he's so curious.
Oh,
I just
his
love
head's
him.
nudging the logo, like what? It's sniffing it, like what is it?
Ooh, what? Okay, let me.
That logo,
oops.
does the logo just going to sit there, or is it going
It's-
to
it's-
be
Here, I can fix
soaking?
it. I can fix
Hint-
it. Hashi, continue your tutorial. Anyway.
Academy Award winner Peter Ramsey, everybody.
Yeah, definitely associated.
Goodness. Thank you, everybody. All right, so you'll see this this cute little Spider-Man that I have right here, and what's neat about him is that this is actually this is a 3D model, and I'm trying to render him using a handful of little bits of techniques that we just did in the other comp. So the way that is done is very simply, I have let's break it down to the basics. We've got our basic Spider-Man right here, and
Basic Spider-Man.
very basic Spider-Man, and I have a nice big rim light on him. Some of it is coming from this parallel light that I have up here, creating some real cast light onto the shape. Oh, actually, I don't have that layer on right now. Boop. There we go. So these light swatches are basically, I have one copy of Spider-Man that looks like this. Just a nice gray shaded one. That way I can take
That's my favorite
copies
one
of
so
this
far.
layer. It looks so cool. I just love the way things like this end up looking. So the nice thing about having a flat shaded one is that from this point, we can use that calculations effect to reference this render. So we can use multiple copies of this shaded Spider-Man and then go in and say, do a custom keying extract, and then say, I want just the brightest highlights on there, and I want them to render over top of the other one. So I can get look at this. I mean, it's so moody and cool that your lighting direction can create these awesome things. So consider going minimal before you consider going maximal. I always go maximal, as seen by this Columbia logos at the beginning, but this looks cooler than my final product.
Sorry.
And the creation of that was a trip too. Or not a trip. It was fun. It was just every tool worked exactly the way it was supposed to get us there.
And you really generated 50% of the image that's there. Yeah.
I'll redo it right after this, because I part of this tutorial is that similar kind of thing. So you saw sort of the handful of things that we did with the other Spider-Man. Let me pull up the render so we can be looking at it together. Here we go. So I grabbed the Spider-Man, and you can see that I have the halftone pattern. I made one that was for the brights. I blurred that layer a little bit so some of these dots came a little bit outside of his layer.
Smart.
I have a CC light sweep that adds a very cartoonish white stripe on all of his sides, and it kind of complements the halftone pattern in these areas. And then I took a specific extract to just get this sort of weird middle range of brightness. I mean, I think it's not. I don't think it was just the darkest areas, but it was sort of like I choked it in on the brighter areas, and then I choked it in a little bit from the dark
what
areas.
time of
So
day
you
did
get
you
into
make it?
here.
What time of day did you make it? Because it's always darkest just before the dawn.
That's not true.
Right.
I hate that phrase. That phrase grinds my gears, Seth.
Ooh.
So
Hey, I recognize this sort of camera angle. I seem to recall Seth making a bunch of robots in a city from this sort of camera angle.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Hashi made a bunch of robots in a city
that's
from
right.
that camera angle.
So
And yet
Seth was
took
with me
him-
during the hours
Yeah,
of frustrating trying
And I'm
to.
just now realizing, Hush, you had a plate you used for the VFX suite thing that he's talking about that was top down.
Seth, I don't want to hear that.
I can't believe neither of us thought of it.
I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Hashi like generated full cities to try and find a top-down view.
What I would love to show everybody is that I did turn to a known. The other thing that I was working
you turned to the devil.
Everybody, my goodness. We're not getting everything into this show. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this show in like 5 years.
Part 2 to the animation. Yeah.
And we'll get one of the directors of, I don't know. Let's see, where did that one go? Let's see. I'm not going to save any changes to this because you all know that.
Yeah.
Okay, side.
Hard. Oh
yeah. So this was my not phenomenally successful test to see if here, check this out. Here is it's an EB synth style transfer to try to see if we could get some characters out of this.
Why did you zoom in closer? This made it worse.
Wait just a second.
No.
I can. Yes.
Oh,
wow.
The teeth have teeth. Anyway, this is using EB synth and like 10 keyframes. Basically, I tried converting random sampling of my extreme expressions like that to EB synth, and then fed the whole sequence to them. Interesting, but not what I was talking about, right? I'm sorry, I'm all over the place because it's Spider-Verse. We got to skip across the Spider-Verse with excitement. And speaking, geez, Louise, he was still
really
just waiting for
chat work.
So one of the things that people have probably heard about in the last little bit is this new Photoshop generator thing. We have Adobe has built a machine learning based generative fill.
Does that mean we now have to make a generative? Is content-aware fill different than generative fill in terms of?
Yeah, generative.
Oh, yeah, very different.
And generative fill
I'm
like
speaking in terms of mascots for our show, like people.
No, oh yeah, me too.
Characters. So generative fill is just a guy with a ton of kids, just constantly being born.
And
that would be a woman then.
So we generated I tried Dolly and I tried not Midjourney. What was the other one? Stable Diffusion, to try to come up with anything that looked right for this, and I didn't quite get what I wanted out of it. So I ended up. I'll show you the final piece here. I ended up creating this piece of artwork, and if I zoom in right here, you'll see that it actually looks familiar. It's actually this piece of artwork that I slowly expanded into more and more. It took a lot of hand-holding, but I'll show you the general gist is that if you download the Photoshop beta and enable the generative fill, you can see here's a dolly render. And I'll mention again, in case it isn't clear, even this knows to mimic the look of the Spider-Verse movie, which was generated by a ton of real artists, everyone. So like these people right here. No, these are the voice credits. Where I'm sure
they do. The actors do so much.
The actors do so much work. Jake Johnson was in there every night. Draw-overs. But yeah, look at this. Look at this. Here, art direction. Look at this art department. Storyboard artists and character designers. A lot of incredible people. That's why credits for movies like this are so long. They designed this look that I am mimicking here. And I do not know what data sets I used to create this, but let me show you what generative fill can do. We're all okay with it now because it's in Adobe. Let's crop this down. Whoops. Actually, no. Let's use the crop tool and then do. This is what Michael showed me you can do.
The common language around it has changed completely now that it's in Photoshop.
Like, oh wait, it's in Photoshop, so I don't have to like be a hacker and download a diffusion model or sign up for a thing.
Or get on Discord.
Well, I mean, also part of it is that Adobe is trying to be a little more like ethical about it. Like they're going to be trying to pay the artists from whom it's being trained, from whose work it's being trained.
It's
And
the
also
data
it's being
set
trained on people who have agreed to it, because it's all based on Adobe stock and not just random scrapes from the internet.
very, very important. And so, yeah, I hope that it is very clear that anything that I'm mimicking is clearly in homage to and in awe of the amazing artists who really worked on Spider-Verse. So let's use the crop tool to uncrop. I'd never known this.
In tribute to these artists.
Whoops!
Let's
What did I do?
this.
Let's soullessly copy their stuff. All right, so I didn't do this all in one go because I've heard that the generator actually uses like a 1024 by 1024 section to actually generate. So if you're going big, don't use it for the whole thing, but I will in this case. So I'll select the inverse there, and then I'll say
take small
generative
bites out of the
fill,
elephant.
and I'll say what? I'll say top down wide angle shot of a stylized city. And in fact, I think that I could even do this without pressing.
Yeah,
You can't
If you do it
do
with
any-
no prompts.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, if you do it with no prompts at all, it'll try to guess based on the content of the image already there. Prompts are just if you want to be more specific with what you're adding. Like, for example, if you're trying to add something into a shot that's not there, like I had a backlit forest shot, I wanted to add a lion, and holy crap, it worked.
Oh,
And holy crap, like this result is better than the one that I ended up with. But I did that one very piecemeal. Like what I did for that one was I was generating like a little bit over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here, and then kind of a curved horizon and stuff. But yeah, it looks like you could just take a big old bite of the apple like that, and that's sort of what I
Building
tried
so well
generating
on
here.
yeah.
I knew that I wanted a big, tall building thing here, so basically, in a setup like this, I was able to say, okay, I'm going to draw sort of looks like a vanishing point shaped thing because the shape does sort of inform it, and then say generate a steep top-down building face or something like that.
And drop one weird word in there, like lizard,
Lizard.
Westworld.
I mean, there's some things that it struggles with so bad. Like, just try. I would like to challenge everyone in the chat. Try to get it to make you a Tin Man, like in The Wizard of Oz. Just try. And I tweet at me, the Great Zalam. with
Were we
your results,
live
please.
when we tried to put a bear in a forest and it gave us a very attractive man with a beard?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we were.
And
See,
kept generating them
question. Oh, yeah, stable to. I mean, the generative fill is likely not going to work with higher bit rates because it's utilizing.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't speak for Adobe.
I will say I
know.
used it to generate. I used it for some paint outs already on a couple shots in my movie, which we're doing at 32-bit, but I had to put to 16 to send it over to Photoshop and make it work. Send it back and render the whole thing in 32. I have yet to see what it does in color. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically that's all to say that what I ended up with was a couple of pieces of quote artwork that let's do a new composition here real quick. I did one of my favorite things, which is to just take a nice piece of art like that, make it a 3D layer. I CC power pinned another copy of it that I did this to. Let me show you. It's just that building face. I CC unstretched it like that. Made a copy. And that way, when I'm in this comp right here, I can take this city wall and like bend it down like this.
Nice.
Because I'm just treating the shot like that's the floor. I'll create a camera, and now I can move this camera here and back somewhere.
Nice.
Something like that. One of the things I was complaining to Seth about the other day is I don't like this dolly toward cursor tool. I really like the dolly toward point of interest because sometimes you're trying to mathematically keep your camera nicely aligned, and I don't like that it has that.
Totally.
But I'm going to go to camera zoom. I'm going to turn the zoom way down, and I'm going to turn the scale of this thing way up, and now I can have this cool, dramatic-looking shot that is a little bit interactive, like this. And then I think what I did for this background piece was I moved it down until it would line up with the bottom of this building, and then scaled it up like crazy. So let's move it up. Yeah, to around.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that
looks.
courtyard thing. So yeah, something like this. What's neat about it is like it's you can do. Look at this. This is cool shot just out of two things, and it feels all 3D and stuff.
That's cool.
And it was enough that I just added a couple of keyframes. I think I took this piece of art in the background and did this, where you duplicate it and you leave its, axis right there, and then you can, grab. Oh my goodness, I got to go to a different camera angle to see what I'm doing here. Sorry, everybody. This will make sense in a second. All right, let's go to this view here. So you can see that the building is very little compared to this artwork. And so, but you can take this artwork, and if you duplicate it, you can rotate one copy a little bit like that to the left, and then you can rotate this other copy a little bit to the right like that. And then if you switch to this camera in here, they'll seam up exactly at the same place because of their axis. And, this is exaggerated, but the idea is now that you're in here, you can move the camera around and you'll get this, look at this.
Hey, nice.
Kind of like the, it's not really 3D, but your eyes just do something where you're like, something's happening here. And so that's basically what I did. I grabbed some keyframe way the heck over here, and then one way back, at the top of the building, and then threw in my character like that. And we ended up with, where is it? I'll make it maybe a little bit bigger. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry, everybody.
Nice.
Boop. And so chromatic aberration, the halftone pattern trick on multiple layers, and then I super comped these all together with a couple of 2D assets that I bought way back when I was trying to do a little 2D animated thing. And to that, I feel like I talked over. I'm so happy we have that drop because,
Wow, that was killer. What a
we
freaking
covered
show.
so much. My goodness.
I'm going to be really sad to not use all these arts in our future episodes. We may just become a Spider-Verse branded show from here on out.
Pretty much. I think that it's, it doesn't seem too.
We'll certainly be able to use them in a year from when Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out.
For sure.
Into Across and Beyond, everybody.
Before we go, I just want to vamp a little bit while I update the end credits.
Now, for those who missed the beginning of the show, we did a great interview with Peter Ramsey, one of the directors of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and one of the executive producers of Across the Spider-Verse, and I presume Beyond the Spider-Verse as well, about his career in this crazy world of animation and a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff on building the look and the world of Spider-Verse. He's an amazing storyboard artist and director. He's done a lot of things, including The Mandalorian. So if you have not yet done so, if you joined us late today, make sure you hop on back when the show's over and watch the beginning part. It's a good half-hour long almost interview with him, and he went into a lot of cool detail. For those who are watching on other channels, like on Maxon Training Team YouTube channel or Action Movie Kids, the replay of this will live on the Red Giant YouTube channel. So youtube.com/Red Giant, and you will find the replay of this and all other VFX and Chill episodes, as well as a bunch of handy tutorials for making cool video things.
Speaking of cool video things, Hashi and Michael, you're cool video things. And I'm proud to do this show with
Seth. You're a cool video thing too.
Thanks. Any last words, Hash, before we go?
If you have any questions or cool stuff that you want to see covered on the show, if you're friends with an Oscar-winning director and you can convince him to come on the show, please do so. But yeah, leave your comments right here and reach out to us on social media because we'll probably respond and do cool show stuff based on your suggestions.
Yeah.
Before we go, I do want to say that Wednesday there was an update for VFX Suite that came out. Supercomp now has a more realistic and beautiful light wrap, reverse light wrap, and diffusion effects based on the engine for optical diffusion in Magic Bullet. So, boom. There you go. Some more creative control for you.
Boom. We love it.
Do it.
Guys, today, that was some solid Goodbye, everybody.
It's great responsibility.
Okay, let's VFX and chill. Our weekly talk show where Seth and Hoshi bring visual effects from movies and shows, then try to put them back together again.